Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
This is Wallace Gator Bradley, and I'm the president of United Peace Inc. And as you all know, that this show wouldn't be possible without the help of the chairman of United Peace Inc., who is Terry Marsh. She's also the director and the producer of this show, and I'm blessed that she's my wife. I know y'all may say I knew something was funny because she keep him going. But this time, I want to say to God be the glory for allowing me to be sitting next to Madam President of Cook County Board, Toni Preckwinkle.
Thanks very much
Thank
for
you.
inviting me.
You know, I see the work that you're doing, and as you know, I understood the piece about the taxes, and I understood the way you came and saved the commissioners when they couldn't make the decision on
What
to do. And that shows, like I tell everyone, everybody wants to be a leader, but nobody wants to accept the responsibility for leading. And that ain't where you can talk to a whole room on who's going to take the responsibility for leading. One of the things that got my attention is when I saw in the Sun Times this story about the jails, and it seems like Dart want to say that that they shouldn't be released. And everyone know, well I do, because I come to the county board meetings. I come to the different committee meetings that y'all have.
Right.
And I know how you reached out to all the interested parties that believe in criminal justice reform, from DART to State's Attorney Kim Fox to the Chief Judge.
Right.
Okay? And I realized that pretty much like what, 4,000 people.
There are 4,000 fewer
Right.
people in the jail than when, on an average daily basis, than when I came into office.
Right. So would you expand?
Sure,
No.
I'd be
Okay.
I'd be happy to. First of all, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about this important issue. Cook County has two legacy responsibilities. The first is public health, where half of our budget is spent. 50% of our budget is spent on public health, and 39% is spent on public safety, and that's mostly the court and the jails. So if you look at those two buckets, it's almost 90% of our budget. 50% on public health, 39% on public safety. So those are the two things that I focus most of my time and attention on, but let me talk a little bit about the public safety part of it. When I came into office in 2010, there were 10,000 people in the jail on an average day. 10,000 people. And you have to understand that our local jails in this country house people who are accused of crimes, not people who are convicted of crimes. If you're convicted of a crime, you go to prison. But you await your trial, if you're poor, in jail. That's the way it's been in this country. And that's because we depend on cash bonds. In other words, the judge says, your bond is $10,000, you put up $1,000 in cash, and you can go out in the community, go to work, go to school, whatever, support yourself and your family, and then be sure that you show up for your hearings and your trial. But if you're a poor person, and the judge gives you a $10,000 bond, and you and your family can't come up with that $1,000, you await the time from your arrest to your trial in jail. And that's just fundamentally inequitable, unequal. It means that people who have money go free, and people who are poor await the disposition of their cases in the jail. And in 2010, when those 10,000 people were in jail, only 7% of them were serving a sentence. So a very, very small number had been convicted of something and were just serving a short sentence. 93% were awaiting trial, and of those awaiting trial, 70%, way over half, were awaiting trial for nonviolent crimes. So they were awaiting trial for things
Right.
like low-level drug offenses,
Right.
not paying your child support, not paying your traffic tickets, prostitution, shoplifting, the things people do to get money for their drugs.
Right.
So we have focused in the last 8 years on trying to reduce the jail population, and with the support of the chief judge, the state's attorney, the public defender, the clerk of the court, and the sheriff, working together and focusing on bond court, We've reduced the jail population so it's now down to less than 6,000 people by focusing on people accused of nonviolent crimes and being sure that they have an opportunity to be out on their own recognizance. That's called an I-bond, a promise that you'll show up for your hearings and your trial, or electronic monitoring. So, and let me just say that the focus of our efforts has been on those accused of nonviolent crimes. So the story that has appeared in the paper today, both the Sun-Times and the Tribune, focusing on gun offenders, people accused of violent crimes, is a much, much more modest percentage of the jail population than the overwhelming majority who had been sitting there because they were accused of nonviolent crimes. So in a way, our justice reform efforts, which focus on nonviolent crimes, are mischaracterized in this story because the focus is all about shooters, people accused of gun crimes. And our efforts have been focused on people accused of nonviolent crimes, and that's how we've driven down the jail population.
And one of the things, too, Madam President, the cost to the taxpayers. What I mean by that, if you got an individual that can't pay $100 bond to get out, it costs the county taxpayers, I think,
$163 a day.
$163 a day to house that individual. If we just did 10 days, that's $1,600 for an individual who couldn't pay $100 bond, okay? And the money that you're saving by the 4,000 individuals not being there goes back into the county
General funds.
to help with the hospital piece.
Right. Let me just say, there's been the most precipitous, the greatest decline in the last 18 months or so. And what we've done as a result is demolish 2 divisions at the jail last year. We're going to demolish 2 more divisions, so we're reducing the size of the jail campus. And that saves taxpayers money because we don't have to pay for operations or maintenance of those buildings anymore.
Correct.
And we picked the ones that were the most outdated, the most obsolete, and the most expensive to operate as we start taking down parts of the jail complex. So, it's very expensive to keep people in the jail. It's very expensive to operate these old, obsolete buildings. And as the jail population has declined, we're reducing the size of the campus. And over time, we'll reduce the population, we'll reduce the staffing levels as well.
Wow. Caller, I see you. Could you please state your name?
Yes.
And voice your opinion?
Yes, Mr. Gator, this is Ray.
How you doing, Ray?
Oh, fine. First, let me say that you have a great crew working for you.
Thank you.
All right. And Ms. Preckwinkle, I want to say this. You're going to have my vote, of course. I voted for you every time that you ran the first time.
Thank you.
But the thing is, when you tried to put a tax on top, it would have been better if you would have said, listen, we need some money to keep up with all the stuff that we need to go on to help the people of Chicago, instead of trying to pass it off as a health tax. That put a lot of people off. I was put off, but like I said, I'm still voting for you because you're the first person, the best person for that job right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your support. At the time we were putting the budget together, and this was the fall of 2016 for the budget for 2017, I talked to the commissioners because my preference would have been a different tax. But there were no votes for an increase in property tax, no votes for a sales tax, and we needed $200 million in revenue. And I said at the time, we need the revenue, and if we don't have it, we're going to be laying people off and cutting programs and services. And without the revenue, we laid off nurses, healthcare workers, probation officers, and cut our programs and services. And sometimes those are the tough choices you have to make. I made a tough choice to support revenue when the commissioners decided that that was not a revenue source that they wanted to commit to any longer. I made the tough choices to lay off our staff, 328 people, to close vacancies, 1,000 vacancies were closed, and to cut programs and services because we have to have a balanced budget.
Thank you. Caller, I see you. You know this is a very opinionated show.
Good evening, Madam President. Can you comment on it? It's alleged that vendors that's in the Cook County jail, they have an agreement where they got to have a certain population in order to, in their contract, where they provide goods and services, they got to have a certain body count up in the jail where they can make their money by having a certain amount of people. Can you comment on that, please?
Well, we have contracts to deliver services, especially food services, to people in the jail. And those contracts are on a per-person basis, and as the jail population goes down, those contracts are less lucrative for the providers, that's true. But that's not going to keep me from reducing the jail population. The critical issue is fairness and justice for the people who come in the criminal justice system, not how much money our vendors make.
Thank you for the call. You know, Madam President, I've learned over the times, and you watch me grow in this, that when we reach out and we talk and we inform the people about what's really happening, and I know that's what you do. Sometimes I say, she thinks she's still the alderman. You think the county is just a ward, because you reach out, your outreach in your office reaches across the county like your outreach was when you was an alderman. You know what I mean?
Well, I was well trained as an alderman. It's very, very important that you touch as many people as possible when you're an alderman, a local elected official. Talk to as many people as possible so you get input about what you're doing and what the challenges are. And I've tried to continue to do that as I've been county board president.
Now, something else that's key that a lot of my viewing audience and concern is with the assessor's office and how the report came out and showed what was really wrong. A lot of my viewing audience, you've been hearing me say it, is that it's other departments that have to come together to find out what was wrong, because there's more pieces than just one person that's being responsible to try to find out. Could you
Sure.
explain that to them?
Sure. First of all, when I came into office, it was clear to me that I had to focus most of my time and attention on the 90% of the budget that's public health and public safety. Now, if you know that 90 cents out of every dollar is being spent in those two buckets, you better, if you have any brains, pay attention to them. And that's where most of... So this summer, the Tribune came out with a story about challenges that we face in our assessment of property, residential property in Cook County. So I went to the folks who've been helpful to us all along. It's a group called Civic Consulting Alliance. And they bring in companies to help local units of government who face challenges. And they've helped us around our transportation planning. They've helped us around our criminal justice reform efforts. So I said to them, find a national person, and Assessor Berrios and I agreed to this. Find a national person who can help us. Look at the system that we've got in place, the assessment tools that we have in place. See if the Tribune is correct in its view that it's too variable and it's regressive. And variable means a similar house in a community is it assessed at roughly the same value. And regressivity means that higher value properties pay proportionally less than lower value properties. In other words, people who have lower value homes pay a higher proportion of property taxes than people in high value homes. So CCA looked at the situation, and I said, look, it isn't good enough just to tell us what the challenges are. You've got to help us figure out how we're going to deal with those challenges. So there's a twofold mission. And they have finished their work on determining the strengths and weaknesses of our instrument. They've told us basically we've got to find a different assessment instrument. And we've had the same one in place for 40 years. 40 years. So it's been the instrument of usage through a number of assessors. It's not just Chairman Berrios, Joe Berrios, Assessor Berrios. So the first thing they told us is, yes, you've got challenges around variability and regressivity. You have to address them. And then they laid out a path for us about things that we needed to do. And the first thing we're doing is investing in more IT, information technology, so we can change the assessment instrument. Next year, we have a triennial process of evaluating property. Next year is all the City of Chicago parcels. So we're putting the new technology in place, the new assessment instrument in place now so that it can apply to the city, that city assessment that your taxes go out for next year. But we're gonna address this point by point over the next 3 years. on residential properties, and then we'll look at the challenges we face for commercial and industrial properties. But whenever you have a big challenge, you got to figure out, got to be sure you know what the problem is, and then have a detailed plan for addressing it. And we're beginning that process of addressing it. And let me just say, the property and taxation arena includes not only the assessor, but 3 members of the board of review, the treasurer, the clerk, and the recorder. So it's a whole constellation of stakeholders that have to be committed to making change here.
Caller, I see you. Could you please state your name and voice your opinion?
Well, this is Paula Tenuta over here. Hello, Mrs. Preckwinkle.
Hi, how are you?
I remember you back in 2010. I served you a breakfast one morning.
Well, thank you.
Yes, I did. You've been doing a great job. So glad to see you all the time on the Cook County TV.
Thank you.
Let me ask you something a little bit about the revenue for Chicago, because you hit on a kind of nice spot. How about that medical marijuana thing? Well, that could make a little bit extra money for the city of Chicago and also help our people that are sick and ill with that. That's just one question I have to ask you, because that's a lot of money going around. It helps a lot of people. We are doing it. Finally, Illinois stepped up to the plate. I know that's got to be a little bit of good revenue for us. As far as the people that are in jail with the I-bonds, people sitting around waiting for their bond to come, it's going to come. The I-bonds are good. It's on your own recognizance, giving you a chance to make sure you come back. And when you do, you pay your fine and you go on down your business and become a better citizen. Always keep voting. I vote for you every single time. Preckwinkle, you are the best.
Thank you.
But one last question, I hate to bring it up because you're probably sick of hearing it, with these poor kids in the shootings out there in Florida. Everybody's marching, everybody's laying down, even President Trump talked today. But they forgot to mention one thing. Okay, gun laws are one thing, permits are another thing, but these kids have got to start sticking to each other inside the schools, inside the universities. You are the kids that eat with those crazy kids. If you see something wrong, go tell somebody. The kids did a great job. The saying was, if you see something, say something. I hate to say it. Quite a few big guys dropped the ball.
No, you didn't.
No, they're
Thank you,
trying their hardest. But the kids in the schools have got to stick closer together, because we can't see it all. We cannot see it all. We're trying our best. You can't have 50 cops in one school. The kids have got to stay. You're doing a great job, and that man next to you, you are a hell of a guy. I see you all the time, all week long. You praise the good Lord, Jesus.
Yes, I do.
Preckwinkle, we got to get the city back together, Preckwinkle. I know you could do it.
Thank you.
Get that medical marijuana going any single way we can make. You're taxing 7 cents on a bag for groceries. Where does all that money go?
Paula. Okay, Paula, go let her respond.
All right, so first of all, let me say I'm president of the county board, which means I don't have control over city laws. We have in the state of Illinois medical marijuana, in the state, the entire state. So we have legalized medical marijuana across the state. And I have supported legalization of marijuana more broadly, just legalization of marijuana. In my view, we should legalize it and tax it in the same way that we do alcohol and cigarettes. So that's my position on marijuana. I believe we should have medical marijuana. I support legalization of marijuana across the board. And let me talk a little bit about the shootings. First of all, we have just this tremendous access to guns in this country. It's not that we have more individuals who are troubled than other places.
Right.
Lots of people all over the world struggle with mental illness. But in our country, people who struggle with mental illness have ready access to guns, and that's where the tragedy occurs. And we have to figure out as a nation whether or not we're going to address this terrible problem that we have, which is access to guns. Assault weapons, which are war weapons,
That's right.
are legal. We don't do enough on background checks on individuals who want to buy guns, or give them a waiting period so we can do the proper analysis of their background. So there are lots of things that we could do that could make our streets safer And we haven't done them as a nation, and shame on us as adults. But let me tell you, I'm troubled by the fact that these shootings, which often involve troubled white kids, get so much public attention when the daily death tolls on our streets in our big cities, and these are black and brown kids, not white kids, black and brown kids, is even greater. I mean, if you look at the murder rates in the city of Chicago, 800 and some 2 years ago, 600 this year, that's an incredible, unconscionable toll. But the nation's focus is on school shootings, and I'm not saying they're not terrible. I'm a teacher. I know how terrible this is. Young people shot down, killed in their own schools. But we also have to pay attention to the daily terrible drip, drip, drip of murders in cities like Chicago and figure out how we can address those as well.
You know, thank you, Madam President, for stating that thoroughly as you did. And for all you voters that's registered, that believe that the passing of the marijuana laws can help pay the taxes, know that it's on the ballot. I know it's on the ballot because I voted early. I voted yesterday, so I saw it on the ballot. And I agree with you. I see what's happening in Denver. I heard the governor in Denver say they don't have no problem with their budget being balanced. But I like the way that you explain the urgency, just like when the police officer got killed on my show last week. Made mention that me and my family send our condolences to his family.
Commander Bauer, yes.
Yes, and to all the families of those who have been senselessly killed across this country. And one of the things that I feel, I believe that if it was more prayer in school, that would make a difference as well. You know what I mean? And you know, they took prayer out of school. Caller, the show about to wrap up, but please state your name.
I want to make my comment real quick. When it comes to property taxes, if you don't, I'm talking about property tax redemption, how these other companies from other states come in and buy people's property taxes up, and how if you don't claim your taxes back within 2 years, how it winds up being thousands. And it's worse dealing with a loan shark. It's a crime how the county lets somebody else come in, just buy the taxes out, and how they wind up losing their home, and it seems like the county don't care.
Well, first of all, let me tell you that the county has been lobbying in Springfield for a longer period where the county holds your taxes before they're sold in a tax sale. And we've lost that battle on several occasions. We want to hold your taxes and not put them up for sale, but we've been prevented from doing that, frankly, by state legislation. And you're right, you have a 2-year period for redemption, and then your taxes are subject to being sold, and if you can't pay the person who buys your taxes, they can end up with your property. It's a terrible system. Our efforts have been focused on trying to keep the properties with the county as long as we can. You owe the county interest on your unpaid property taxes, but the county does not take your property from you. So we have been fighting in Springfield for keeping the properties within the county as long as possible so people have as much time as possible to redeem them with the county before they're sold to a third party.
You know what I think? I'm glad 'cause I just learned something. So I want to share what my view on what I just learned. We need to ask all those that's running for governor, would they support a law or push for someone to make a recommendation that a law be put on the books for the governor to sign to make sure that what Madam President just said, which would be a good solution to make sure that an individual's property cannot get sold or taken from them.
Out from under them.
Right.
Yeah, the problem is that the tax buyers have a strong lobby in Springfield, and it's hard to get legislation passed that would hold those properties with the counties for an extended period of time.
Well, it's the time that I miss so well, and that is leaving you. But let me leave you with this. Please go vote, and to God be the glory, and thank you for listening and watching this show. I appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me.